So the first thing we're going to talk about would be sitting tolerance, okay? And that's first on the list. And keep in mind here that when we're looking at these numbers, we're not describing this as a test to a patient. This is basically, we're doing exercise, we're looking at their functional performance, we're doing all the things that we do in physical therapy, and we're pulling information out of that. We don't want to put them under this impression that everything is being tested, okay? And I think we get more accurate information when you're just pulling it out of activities that you're obviously observing anyway. Now there's some activities that are not as easy to observe, and sitting posture or sitting tolerance would be one of those activities. So you'll notice as you fill out the spreadsheet, you're basically asking the patient, within an 8-hour day, how many hours could you usually sit before your symptoms start getting aggravated? What's your tolerance? And they're going to give you an hour. It might be 3 hours a day, 4 hours, 5 hours. You plug that into the formula, and then it does the math for you in terms of telling you what that equates to in terms of continuous or frequent or occasional. But this is a good chance to just kind of check the patient and see if they have a realistic understanding of their disability. Usually people kind of overestimate their limitations, and so sitting is a good one that you can get a kind of a heads up on what's going on with this patient. If when they're brought back to the treatment room, even on that first day, they have paperwork to do, either in the waiting room or in the treatment room. They're sitting for quite a while, and if you'll lead with the instruction that we don't want to do things here that necessarily aggravate your symptoms, so I'm going to ask you to do something. You're going to be sitting here, but anytime you need to stand up or change postures because your symptoms tell you that's what they need, please do it. You are not going to be rude, okay? And then when you're able to sit back down again, you just sit back down again. So do not feel like you're confined to that chair. And as what you're going to find out is some people might be able to sit the whole time, and they don't need a recovery from that seated posture. Other people are going to actually maybe sit for 10 minutes, and then they might get up and need to move around for a minute, and then they sit back down. And so in that case, you're looking at, well, if they needed a minute to recover after 10 minutes of sitting, then that tells you that they're only able to sit a maximum of 90% of the day, and 90% of an 8-hour day would be about 7.2 hours per day. So you could do a little bit of math and figure out, just based on what you observe, if there's a difference between what the person says they can do in an 8-hour day and what you're actually observing in the clinic. And that could be done for the other two that fall below that, standing and even walking as well. You're basically going to be starting by asking the patient that, but we're going to try to be testing that each time that the patient comes in, and drawing attention to the fact that yeah, you tolerate walking on the treadmill for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and then you need 5 minutes to recover before you go again. Well, you divide the recovery time, which is 5 minutes, by the 20 minutes that they were able to do that, and you can get a percent of workday, and then you basically calculate that percent of workday times 8, and you see how that number compares to the one that you gave them. And you might even talk to them about that a little bit. You might even say, you feel like you can do 4 hours a day, but based on what we've been seeing here in the gym, you're actually looking like you might be able to do 6 or 7 hours a day, and you kind of show them the math. So that's the part of the system that's going to be kind of dynamic, and in my opinion, not quite as scientific, but it's I think as close as we're going to get in the time constraints that we're dealing with, and really, when it comes right down to it, we are not following this person through an 8-hour work shift, so we're relying on what they're telling us, number one, but also what we're observing, and making some educated recommendations based on that.